IVM.
Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Careers in the new podcast series presented by Accenture. I'm your host Shiladitya Mukhopadhyaya. In this podcast series, we'll get you the latest and greatest in the world of technology that's shaping the future of business as we know it. We're talking intelligent platforms, cloud, AI, blockchain, extended reality, and a whole lot more. Every fortnight on Wednesdays, we'll have for you a hot topic with expert speakers from Accenture talking about top trends in the space, how these are changing the world and creating growth across industries. And more importantly, we'll tell you how you can learn more, build your skills and expertise to grow and stay relevant in your career. So on this episode, we're talking about the cloud. Now, the cloud is a very massive topic in today's world. I mean, everyone talks about what the cloud is, but what is it really? It's really a global network of servers, each doing something unique. It's not a physical entity. It's instead basically a lot of servers globally become a platform and operate as a single ecosystem. So cloud basically enables people with an internet connection to access IT resources on demand from anywhere in the world. Basically run operations or run applications which run on this globally available infrastructure. So companies embrace the cloud to do a lot, to unleash innovation, intelligence, business value. We've seen that almost 2/3 of companies still today have not achieved the benefits they expected though out of cloud initiatives. And that's because there's a lot to really still understand. There's a lot of challenges in businesses and there's a lot of different things that industries demand from the cloud today which are yet to be realized. So to explain all this and more, we have with us experts from Accenture. With me today is Kishore P Durg, Senior Managing Director, Cloud Lead, Technology Growth and Strategy Lead, and Ayush Mittal, Managing Director, Intelligent Cloud and Infrastructure at Accenture. All right, welcome to the show, Ayush, Kishore. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Great. If for our audience, could you give us a little bit of background of your individual personal stories of how you got into the cloud domain today, and of course then we want to talk a bit more about what exactly it is and what exactly it means today.
So Kishore Durg, I lead the Accenture's cloud business. I've been an enterprise architect in my early part of my career, and I've been in multiple clients that I used to visit to set up their high availability clusters and others. And as I look at the past and look at the current day, cloud is everywhere. Yeah. Whether it is your mobile application sending data to somebody, or your hospital scanning system sending data to the cloud, or your bikes, when you're driving the bikes, it will send data where you are, what you're doing. So the proliferation of cloud in our day-to-day life is phenomenal. Alexa is listening to you every day.
Your phone is listening to you every day.
Your phone is listening to you every day.
That's true.
So that's what I do. I look at Accenture and see how I can help our clients change their business by having cloud as one of the key enablers.
Nice. What about you, Ayush?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for leading our intelligent cloud and infrastructure services in India. Have been associated with this for nearly around 26 years. Long back, started playing with server storage, all the so-called what configures and creates a cloud today, that we call it in the new term. So I think it's a pretty interesting and exciting space to be in. I think the speed of innovation is mind-boggling. You can just see everything that we experience, and in terms of our buying patterns is today driven with a lot of stuff happening at the back end, driven with cloud capability. So I think it's an exciting world for all of us going forward.
No, absolutely. In fact, just to dig a little deeper on, how the history of this domain and how, from a technology standpoint, how it came to be and how it came to be a specialization or a focus area. Could you tell us about how we have evolved maybe in the past, last 20, 25 years, 30 years, however long it's been that this has become a discipline which people focus on?
Yes, I'll just give you a background. I think the way the entire cloud journey has evolved, it's been like many years back. I think the applications had the hunger for more and more compute capacity. And long back, we started with grid computing, and that brought in the new concept where you can run a task or a transaction across, multiple, I would say, servers connected onto a network. Then, the entire concept changed, and all of us have been, probably the users of it, where, the likes of Google and Yahoo and others came back with, mail as a service, right? So you can buy, so many accounts, so you need not to have your own messaging servers, software licenses, pay per use. And I think that's where the early adoption started, with software as a service coming in as a concept. And now when you look at it today, I think the way industry has been asking to consume technology has been more on a on-demand as a service model, because no business continues to do well all throughout the 10, 15 years of its cycle. And, there's a lot that's being expected from an innovation standpoint. So I think cloud has really brought in the true, as a service consumption-based model, because, your infrastructure as a service, including software as a service and platform as a service, it's truly enabled the ask of the industry at large to consume IT on an on-demand as a service model. So that's the evolution of cloud, and I think it's been an exciting journey for all of us who have been associated with it.
Yeah, that's true. In fact,
if you really look at it, right, between 80s, 90s, the technology innovations that came in between 2000 and 2010 and plus have actually exponentially accelerated what a consumer can do, and what the amount of technology they touch and the innovation that happened there has phenomenally accelerated. The smartphone proliferation,
the internet and everything,
so the innovations that have accelerated have essentially touched every human being, every business. So as businesses got into the digital revolution, they really wanted to be on top of this. For you to be digitally enabled, then you need to have cloud capabilities. Then you are sitting on like 40, 50 data centers.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? Then you have the security issues happening, a lot of people getting into your system. That essentially triggered the ability that, we need to do something about this. And that's where I think some of the core capabilities were actually moved to the cloud. And that would be the acceleration of, we could do a lot in the cloud. So the businesses started, there are businesses built on the cloud, standalone. Yeah. And recently I was in Japan, they've actually built a banking platform in the cloud.
Yeah.
So, it's not like, one small application sending some data. You're running businesses in the cloud now.
Yeah.
So essentially your business without the cloud is hampered compared to competition. Yeah. So that I think that acceleration that's happening, and it's going to continue to accelerate.
Yeah. In fact, that early example you gave was actually interesting, because email was probably the first use of the internet for a lot of people today, and now it's ubiquitous, right? People today assume the cloud is around us. All applications are connected. There's nothing local anymore, especially consumer side. Everything, like you said, is cloud enabled. But more and more, and businesses have also come around to it. Like you said, you have to be competitive and you have to use the cloud in some form if you want to be a competitive business today. But what would you say is the current state of the art? What is the current edge of this technology that we are on?
So I'll give you a couple of examples, right? You have a lot of these oil pipelines that are out there going through territories that humans don't necessarily live. Mm-hmm. So you need to have capability to send a drone there to check if the pipelines are fine. Mm-hmm. And the ability to track where they are. Now, how do you send that data? You're not going to have a server everywhere. Mm-hmm. How do you send that data? How do you track it? You have hospitals today which are running all these CAT scans and others. They are sending their data to the cloud. And then you're processing it and understanding what is failing. You have the ability to track. A lot of the remote operations that happen around the world are happening with data being sent to the cloud, actioning it based on that. So that will phenomenally accelerate in the future. Now you have intelligence systems, intelligence agencies having their data in the cloud.
Yeah.
So the ability to do analytics and the proliferation of data will essentially drive the new businesses, and that will continue to accelerate. So we are looking at a lot of the platforms which do any of the compliances, for example, the GDPR elements of it, HIPAA, all of it, which run the businesses, will all be driven in the cloud. So the element of what you as a business can do We will have to look at, platforms that actually run in a single specific mega scaler provider, or it would be a bunch of multiple cloud providers that will help you solve your business.
Wow.
That is the future. And edge computing, as they say, right, that essentially what sits in your local network of data that is out there, even they are sending a lot of it, like pressure, weather, sensors that are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, even human beings are going to start wearing a lot of devices on their thing.
Yeah.
All of those will be in the cloud. And in the future, you could probably predict somebody is going to have an issue. You can know where that person is, send a person to kind of help him survive.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is the future of what's going to be. And Accenture is all about changing the world.
Yeah. In fact, just to add to that, we assume that most of these things are cloud connected today, right? Is there anything which still is not? I mean, I would actually ask you that. Like, where has the cloud yet to maybe penetrate? Like, what is where is this going? If you could tell us a little bit about where it's going.
So I'll tell you, I think it is very difficult to say that your data, your information, and you are not connected to the world.
Right.
And I think the way you see it today, I would say that, there are certain places where organizations have still made decisions to not, get connected to the cloud, keep a lot of information and data with themselves for the right reasons. But my take is today, when you look at from a business standpoint, right, companies across industries, whether it's got to do with hospitality as an industry, airlines, I would say hospitals in the space of, all healthcare, manufacturing, retail, they're all connected. Because the reason is that, your consumers are today millennials, right? And the key thing is that, the buying patterns are no longer the same as it used to be in the past. They are not really buying products as products. Just to say, if you are going and buying a bike, right? People are not buying a bike; they're buying experience, right? And if you look at even basic stuff, some of the brands do say that it's not buying a shoe, right? It's about buying an experience. So I think when it gets to really doing a complete, connect with the consumers in a very different way as compared to what it was in the past, I would say, almost everybody is connected.
Yeah.
And, I think you need to know what people are thinking. You need to have those inputs into your, manufacturing process, your design process, your marketing process. And with that being the case, you cannot stay away from being connected. And I think cloud provides that unique capability because, cloud is loosely coupled, right? And it gives you a flexibility to connect using APIs. Though I'm getting a little technical here, but
sure.
That's the power of cloud. It just gives you the capability to connect the way you want to, even with your legacy systems. And I think that's where the adoption is increasing based upon the buying patterns, the way the organizations need to transform their manufacturing and sales process, and even how they touch with their consumers and the community at large.
Just to actually get a little more technical, and again, this is for our audience and our listeners here, because what we're trying to also understand is what does this actually mean? I mean, cloud today has become such a ubiquitous word that it's used everywhere, like you said. We always talk about it. We assume that it's around and we are all connected, but from a career standpoint, right?
What is it?
Yeah, how does one get into this field? Because I know one line which is commonly joked about is the cloud is nothing but someone else's computer.
I'll give you 3 chapters to the story.
Sure.
So I'll tell you the story. Story is, so as a business, take me as a business, I really wanted to have a report that I need to generate. So I ended up buying a server. I installed the software. I appointed a person to actually manage it. Then my data grew. Then I had to have a data expert. I have a database person. Look at it. All I wanted to do was actually run one report, end of the month. How much did I actually come into my firm and how much went? So my business need was that. But I'm just a small thing. But if a large business, they will end up building mega data centers, 20 data centers around the world. So that is chapter 1. So the excitement at that time, if you're an infrastructure expert, is, we're going to have Amazon, Azure, Google come in and they will take away this thing, but they will actually host your data in the cloud. And all you want to do is run the report. And that is essentially serverless concept. You run your report, get the data, that's all you need. And we will take care of everything.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, I was excited. I don't need to worry about the hardware. I don't need to worry about the security breach. I don't need to worry about all
where
the
my
patches.
data is hosted.
I don't have to worry about all the OS patches I need to take care, and I can sleep well. You guys are going to take care of it, and I just have to just pay you for the report that I need to run. That's it. So the second chapter was, well, I have enterprise systems now. I have my SAP data, Oracle, a lot of these enterprise platforms, and I have my supply chain elements of it, finance is running on it, and my Salesforce is on it. So the SaaS story started there in terms of, I can get you your supply, the Salesforce enablement through this. You don't have to worry about anything. We'll take care of it. Now, what do I do with my SAP system that is out there? S/4HANA came in with analytics. So then the enterprises said, we need to take that to the cloud. The thing is, there's a lot of data sitting in the systems. People are estimating $27 billion of it will be spent to take the data from what I have to going and putting it in the cloud. Wow. Over the next 3 years. There's a huge opportunity. So then the question became, enterprises are moving into the cloud. So there is an opportunity for a lot of people to figure out, which part of your process you will retain internally, which process you're going to expose to the outside world, which is the consumer and your employees. Will you want to put your employee data? So there's a lot of discussion about, so the expertise you need to bring in is hybrid expertise. What is it? Functions that will reside within. And hybrid architecture is a huge, complex thing. And if you are an expert in that, you will probably get a lot of money right now.
Wow. So
the next thing is, then the next elevation of the chapter, I would say, is some people started building their entire business in the cloud. A lot of the aggregators that are out there, businesses that are run as aggregators, a lot of their data sits in the cloud. They built their entire business in the cloud. Then they started innovating in the cloud. Now, the challenge for a small business like me, let's say I'm running a small business, how do I get all the innovations that are happening, that are being crowdsourced and thought through by different enterprises that I can leverage today? The only way is to kind of leverage some of the public clouds that are out there, and then I can probably get the same innovations that I would love to have. That is the evolutionary story of, where the different chapters. I think the third chapter is still being written. We're getting into innovations, and I think the future chapters will continue to come. But I think from the excitement from an infrastructure perspective is, I'm going to take you to the cloud, to actually, I can run your business in the cloud. That's a huge transition.
Right. In fact, you mentioned SaaS earlier, software as a service, which is essentially delivery via a cloud platform. I think that's also something which has changed the way in which you consume online services and cloud services. So what would you say is, coming back to you mentioned that someone who's an architect today is, a valuable person today. So what are the sort of key skills or the key, individual disciplines that one has to look at if I want to enter into the cloud career path?
Yes, I'll give you with a couple of examples without straight jumping onto, the skills part of it. And I'll correlate between, what clients are looking at and then what are the skills that are needed. So if you look from a cloud, capability standpoint, I think what it enables is speed, scalability, and innovation. And I think I'll give you an example. Like for one of our clients, there was a business event that was supposed to happen, and they wanted to modernize their entire, sell to bill process, and they had to get it done on a specific date. Now, if you had to do it in the legacy environment, spinning up a entire, SAP environment, getting it live would be anywhere between 12 to 18 months. You have to order for the infrastructure, configure the software, get the data, get all of this running with all your, business, I would say logic and everything. It's a huge amount of, effort. But I think what we did for this customer was we were able to get this completely up and running live from their legacy onto the cloud with a full stack, transformation in just, 30 weeks.
Wow.
Now that's the speed. So what you need as a skill is people, right, who can really do the assessment of the existing landscape of, clients' infrastructure and applications. They can, do architecture. So they can design what's going to be the architecture from a legacy to a cloud architecture. They can help in terms of moving applications onto the cloud infrastructure. Make sure that, it's all working and delivering the performance that the client is looking at. So that's the end business outcome. So, you need people who can do assessments. There are people who can be architects. There are people who would be able to do migration of applications and then operate and run it in the cloud. I'll give you another example. Like when you look at one of another clients, it's a client in the media space. Now there are a lot of sports events that do happen, and the number of I would say subscribers for that particular event depends upon who has made it to the finals. So if it's a football match, which are the two countries or teams you're playing, and you can't predict. And you can't build a platform that will give you an experience of watching that live football event with 100,000 users or 1 million users.
Yeah.
And to run an experience, right, for 100,000 users and 1 million users needs a different amount of capacity. Yeah. So cloud gives you the scalability.
The instant scalability.
The instant horizontal scalability. Yeah. So for that customer, like, whenever, they see the number of users increasing, logged in onto, the match that's going on, they keep on, scaling up the environment. So you need, again, smart people who can make decisions, use the automations in the cloud to be able to, scale the environment for an end right user experience. So that's the second point. The third is, I'll give you another example. This is for a client in the mining industry. And, just like we're talking about, driverless cars, driverless trucks, they're talking about, driverless trains. So, they do mining at a remote location. The material has to be shipped to another site. And obviously, every industry that people are thinking about, how you can have a concept where you can have a, driverless car or a truck or transport, right? So now what happens is, this is about, leveraging the innovation. Now, there's a lot of data that you need to collect, because earlier there was a human sitting, watching all the signals and making the decision, at what speed the train needs to go,
right,
when to stop when you see the signal being red, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of that has to be automated. So now cloud gives you the capability of, innovation. And I'll say, capability in terms of, using analytics platform, machine learning platforms, and then, making decision from the data that you gather. So I think then again, we need people who are able to, right, use all these ongoing innovations in the area of, data mining, analytics, AI, machine learning, and apply it for our customers to deliver business outcomes.
Right.
So, these are the skills that are becoming, extremely important. And I think those are the stuff that, we as Accenture are looking for and our customers are looking for.
I would say there are like 3 dimensions to this, right? One is people who can, the conversation of cloud is not just a technology conversation.
Yeah.
It's a board level conversation.
Yeah, it's a very conceptual conversation at the start, and then
yeah. So you can have a CEO saying we need to be in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's not, it is just moving away from do we need to be. So the thing is it's flipping on its head. It's coming from the top. Yeah. So we need to have people who can advise our clients. Strategically, does it make sense? Which of these mega scalers you want to align with? What is the value proposition in terms of a business case? Is it $200 million saving? Is it $300 million saving?
Yeah.
And which businesses you want to touch, which areas you want to touch? How do you actually lay it out? Then the second level conversation is in the industry domain. Is it insurance platform that you want to bring in? Is it a mining platform you want to bring in? Utilities, every segment of a business. And then different businesses are transitioning into the cloud in a very different way.
Right.
So there are some of these banks, telcos, they are far ahead, and there are some which are
still
there.
Yeah.
So the ability and expertise is very different with these different things. So for example, I just heard in the Nordics, they want to set up the cloud for robotics. They want to have a robotics cloud.
Wow.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
So the conversations are very different at different levels. So your expertise is at that level, you need to be an enterprise architect who can advise, do you want to go with this mega scaler? Because there is a lock-in. You will have a lock-in element to it. Yeah. The question is which applications are interoperable between these different clouds. That's something very valuable.
The multi-cloud strategy.
Multi-cloud strategy, very valuable for our clients. Yeah. And then you could say, will this application that you just built, will it work in the other cloud if you decide to switch to the other cloud provider?
Yeah.
Right? Then the question becomes, in all our houses, we have so many devices. I also really look at what is the bill I'm actually paying for my number of telephone. I have like 4 different connections. There are multiple broadbands. There are multiple utility companies that services. At the end of the day, as a business, I want to know what am I paying.
Yeah.
So you need to have an ability to look at your enterprise and what is the sticker cost.
Yeah.
You'll have, say 200, 300,000 people in your company or 100,000. Everybody's spinning a compute into the cloud.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the amount and how do you essentially optimize it? You could probably have asked for a server and you probably never looked at it, and then you're continuing to pay for it. So you need to have somebody who can analyze billing, for example. So that's that level of conversation. And optimizing it, there could be a lot of zombie shadow servers that you're leveraging and you never wanted it. Like I may have provided for both Netflix and I could probably go with Amazon service and I may not know that I'm actually getting both of them.
I was going to mention that. There's a lot of the cost of ease of access to compute and cloud services also brings about some excess.
And then it gets down to, well, if I'm coming out of college, what do I need to do? I would probably go get a certification from any of the mega scalers and probably want to be certified at the architect level and get all of this, kind of accumulate certifications. Like if you accumulate stocks, accumulate certifications. If I were a new grad, I would accumulate that and build more credibility. Then I would look at being, the next graduation is I would look at being an advisor saying, Vijay, you want to go with this provider or that provider. You need to understand which application works in which domain. You need to understand the features, the capabilities, and the nuances of what works. You need to understand, can you transfer 34 terabytes from this database? Which cloud would provide you that? So there's a lot of complexity there, and you slowly graduate. And ultimately, you want to be the advisor to the business. You want to be at the boardroom telling clients what you want to do.
Right. And that's actually where the heart of the matter is. Like how your business can transform via cloud-enabled technologies, not just infrastructure, the cloud infra part, but even the layered applications on the cloud, the various domain-specific applications on the cloud. Just to round that out, I mean, you touched upon this. Where do you recommend? What are a few specific top things you recommend? Our listeners and people who are trying to build a career in the cloud to go after.
So I'll just give it in one sentence: be a deep expert. If you're an expert in something, be a very deep expert and focus and make sure that you build credibility around that. It's always good to be a lot on the breadth side, but cloud is everywhere. So people will value deep expertise in the initial part of your career. Obviously, they will value your breadth as you graduate to higher levels. But if you're a person coming out of college and looking for where you want to, whether it is application domain, data domain, network domain, security domain, you need to be a deep expert in that for you to be valued by a lot of the service firms that are out there and obviously valued by Accenture.
Right.
Yeah, I think my perspective is there's obviously a community that's coming into the industry. And I think, as Kishore rightly said, for them, it's all about getting a certification from one of the, hyperscalers, whether it's got to do on Microsoft, AWS, Google, Oracle, and all. I think there's a large community that does even, work on the industry today across application and infrastructure. I think when I look at from their standpoint, it's more important, how do they build skills in terms of helping their customers in more and more cloud adoption. So it's got to do with skills around transformation, skills around architecture, migration. From an application standpoint, native cloud app development, right? App modernization. I think I would say, those are the skills that the existing set of, resources working in the industry need to look at in terms of, transforming their learning process and, helping probably from a cloud journey standpoint, their own personal journey as well as, journey for their customers.
I would say other point is, who would be most valued? Full stack developers, cloud native full stack developers are going to be very valued because they will span through, as Ayush was saying, agility is a very big thing. Yeah. The silos are breaking down. So if you're in the full stack developer in the cloud native environment, you're very valuable for our clients, you're valuable for Accenture.
Thank you so much. I think that's that summarizes exactly the kind of audience we are also trying to inspire with the future of work in the cloud. And thank you both, gentlemen. This was a really insightful conversation, and we'll hope to hear from our listeners on how they can jump onto this cloud journey themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kishore and Ayush. This was a really great conversation. And I love the fact that the real world examples and implementations of the case studies on cloud given by both of you, which were really captivating. So we covered a lot today to everyone listening in. Of course, starting with the history and the current state of the cloud, but also what the future holds, right? As cloud computing overall becomes ubiquitous, I think more and more people will definitely find that there's so much more to still do in this space. And I hope a lot of you listening today are inspired to take up a career in this space for your professional growth. To everyone else listening in, if you're excited about what we discussed here today, and if you're interested in exploring careers with Accenture, check out open positions at careers.accenture.com. On the next episode, we talk about Microsoft. And until then, I'm your host, Shiladitya, on Tech Careers in the New, the podcast series presented by Accenture.
Filter coffee is a fascinating beverage. You need to pick the right beans, blend them in the right proportion, roast them to perfection, and slow brew at the right temperature to get the perfect cup. Which is exactly like great conversations as well. You need to track down the most interesting minds, get them into their zone, and settle down for an unhurried, unscripted chat. And coffee for me is always, always, always best enjoyed with friends. I'm Karthik Nagarajan, and do share my table as I meet some of the most interesting people I know and sit them down for a strong cup of coffee and an even stronger conversation. Join me every Wednesday for a freshly brewed episode. This is not frappe. This is the Filter Coffee Podcast.
Hey, this is Shiladitya.
And I'm Amit Doshi.
And we host Shunya One.
It's a really fun podcast where we talk to some of the best entrepreneurs in the country.
Yes, talking about everything from their startup challenges to what they're building and all the future of technology right here.
So catch us on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to your podcast from.